Strong numbers that we've tracked during the recovery. That is the jobs number today, confidence, retail sales, Q2 price action on stocks. Says stock market will drop to nothing if you elect a president who raises taxes, and says this is not just luck that's happening. This is a lot of talent. Well,
look, we know the Fed has been incredibly easy, so there have been very few failures despite the pandemic. We know Secretary Mnuchin has helped with his program, 5 million different companies. So look, they threw a lot at the economy in order to make it work, and I think you could argue from that employment number, it is working. I don't think the stock market is lying here. I do think that there is a level of speculation, but there are also a lot of companies that I guess would have gone out of business that didn't. I think Jay Powell deserves a lot of credit because the credit market did not go bad. And, David, you know, behind the scenes, the credit market could have gone very bad.
Yeah, there were some scary days in mid to late March, guys, that we well know about as we watched the president leave the podium after going through all those numbers. There were scary days there. And it's interesting, of course, Carl, I can't remember the last time that the president had an angry tweet for Jay Powell, which prior to the pandemic, of course, and for years had been the case, certainly every so often talking about how rates were not low enough. And yet, interestingly, as Jim points out, you know, he has helped a great deal here. I mean, Jim, when you come back to a conversation on this market every time, many of the professionals I talk to just say, it's the Fed.
Well, look, I mean, we had record unemployment, and we had what? Hertz failed. They were in trouble already. JCPenney failed. They were really in a lot of trouble. They didn't let any company fail that was doing well. If you go over what Secretary Mnuchin said, we're going to have business interruption insurance provided by the government. So I think that there could have been, I mean, how did the cruise line survive? How did the airlines survive? And the answer is Secretary Mnuchin and the Federal Reserve decided they weren't going to fail. And they obviously should have failed, given the run on them. You could argue that the banks should have already, they should have had to have their dividends cut. But there was so much money being pumped in that they seem safe. So, yes, there was the Fed and Treasury decided not to let this become a depression. And I think that, I don't know if they thought that it would become a boom, and we still going to have a lot of small, medium-sized businesses that are in trouble because of social distancing. But look, credit to where credit's due. There should have been a lot more failures, given the unemployment number, and they didn't.
Yeah. To David's point, though, I mean, the president yesterday said he was happy with Jay Powell. Didn't get a shout-out, nor did Mnuchin in that briefing, at least what we heard. Jim, the Washington Post now has a piece saying that White House economic officials have told advisors that because of the jobs number strength today, stimulus 4 pricing will likely be smaller, and that the opposition to extending the $600 CARES Act benefit, which is opposed by Trump, will get firmer.
Well, look, this is the great irony is that we've never had incomes go up during a period when there's been such joblessness. And so we should remember that there's stimulus all over the place. I mean, the economy is on steroids. Now, can you take the economy off steroids once it starts getting momentum? Well, you have to follow these states. If you start seeing a lot of closures, I think that it'll dampen the momentum. But we've got it, and we've got money in people's pockets. Look, we spend several $1 trillion to get it so we have that board being green. And you could argue that the several $1 trillion paid off, or you could argue that you're going to have to start paying off the several $1 trillion. But there's just so many companies that we would have thought went under that didn't go under. And they didn't go under because Treasury Secretary and Chairman Powell said, no, we're not going to do what happened in 2008. We're not going to be laissez-faire. We are going to be in there rolling our sleeves up. Secretary Mnuchin goes to the Democrats and says, what do we need to do? They actually get something together. It was incredible to see the Democrats go with the Republicans. And look, the green is extraordinary. All right, let's just call it. The green is extraordinary.